The recycled air of Novaris Station carried the familiar scent of metal, ozone, and the cheap synthetic coffee that fueled its workers. Adrian Voss tightened the last bolt on the malfunctioning repair drone, wiping grease from his hands. His workshop, tucked deep within the station's lower maintenance sector, was his only escape from the chaos of the bustling docks above. "There you go, buddy," Adrian muttered, activating the drone. Its optical sensors flickered to life, casting a soft blue glow. "Try moving your left arm." The drone rotated its appendage smoothly, letting out a series of appreciative chirps. "Don't thank me yet," Adrian warned, glancing at the diagnostics on his wrist console. "And stay the hell away from the plasma conduits this time. I'm not rebuilding you from scratch again." A sudden crash from the corridor outside made him jump. The reinforced door to his workshop slid open with a sharp hiss, revealing a figure that had no business being anywhere near his humble workspace. She was tall, her skin a deep shade of twilight, her hair flowing like liquid starlight. The fabric of her attire shimmered with wealth far beyond anything this aging station had ever seen. But it was her eyes, piercing amber, blazing with unmistakable royal fury, that held him frozen. "You," she pointed a slender finger at him, "you're the mechanic." Adrian straightened, suddenly aware of the oil stains on his jumpsuit. "I'm the chief engineer," he corrected. "My ship requires immediate attention." She strode in like she owned the place, movements graceful despite the tension in her shoulders. "The quantum drive is failing. I have urgent business on Velos Prime." Adrian raised a hand, cutting her off. "Look, He hesitated, noting the intricate sigil tattooed across her temple. "Your Highness?" "Princess Seraphina of House Teva," she confirmed, retrieving a small crystal flask from her belt and taking a deliberate sip. "Well, Princess," Adrian continued, crossing his arms, "there's a proper procedure for requesting repairs. You'll need to file—" Seraphina's hand trembled. The flask slipped from her grasp. Adrian lunged forward, catching her just as she collapsed. The crystal shattered, spilling an iridescent liquid across the floor. "Hey, are you all right?" His heart pounded as her body went limp in his arms. Her skin burned fever-hot through the thin fabric of her clothes. Her golden eyes fluttered weakly. "The drink. Something's wrong." Her fingers clenched his sleeve. "Get medical." Adrian slammed his hand against the emergency comm panel. "Medical emergency in Workshop 3. I need a team here now." Seraphina convulsed once, then went completely still. Only the rapid pulse at her throat told him she was still alive. "Stay with me, Princess," Adrian muttered, lowering her gently to the floor. "Help's coming." Within minutes, the medical bay was swarming with personnel. Alongside them stood Seraphina's royal guards, tall figures clad in obsidian armor. Their glowing visors flickered as they assessed Adrian, silent and unreadable. Dr. Lena Mercer, the station's chief medical officer, hovered over the unconscious princess, her brows knitting together as she read her tablet. "This is unprecedented." One of the royal guards stepped forward. "Is there an antidote?" "It's not that simple." Dr. Mercer's voice was grim. "It's an adaptive toxin. It's attacking her genetic structure directly." "Then find a cure." "We can't," Mercer admitted. "Not without a compatible donor." Adrian, who had been making himself as invisible as possible against the workshop wall, stiffened. What now?" Dr. Mercer's expression didn't waver. "The Tevani have a unique physiology. They can exchange life force through intimate contact. But the donor has to be genetically compatible. If not, it could kill them both." The guard's posture stiffened. "Then we must begin testing immediately." "There's no time," Mercer snapped. "She has 36 hours. We need to test everyone on the station. Now." What followed was a blur of activity. Medical staff began running genetic scans on everyone in reach, including Adrian, despite his protests. When the scanner passed over him, it let out a shrill beep. The entire room went still. Dr. Mercer stared at the tablet in disbelief. This can't be right. She ran the scan again. Same result. Adrian Voss. 99.9% compatibility match. The guards turned to him sharply. Impossible. He's human, one of them growled. Mostly human, Mercer corrected, scanning her data again. But his genetic markers are unusual. The compatibility is undeniable. Adrian felt the blood drain from his face. And that means... what, exactly? Serafina stirred on the medical gurney, eyes fluttering open. What's happening? Her voice was weak, but still carried authority. Mercer approached her. Your Highness, you've been poisoned. We found a donor for the transfer. Then proceed. Mercer hesitated. The donor is... She turned toward Adrian. Serafina followed her gaze, and her face twisted in horror. The mechanic? Chief engineer, Adrian muttered, for what felt like the 100th time. Serafina tried to sit up only to wince and fall back. There must be someone else. Anyone else. There isn't. Mercer's voice was firm. And we're out of time. Serafina's golden eyes locked onto Adrian, burning with a mix of disbelief and fury. You will do this. That wasn't a question, was it? Adrian muttered. I am a princess of House Teva. I do not ask. She winced as another wave of pain hit her, but then, softer, she added, But I would appreciate your cooperation. Adrian exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. This morning, his biggest problem had been a broken repair drone. Now he was being told he had to mate with an alien princess to save her life, and be permanently bound to her afterward. If I agree, he said carefully, what exactly am I getting myself into? Mercer consulted her tablet. The process requires intimate contact over the next 36 hours. The more thorough the contact, the faster the poison will be neutralized. Adrian's stomach twisted. And after that? You'll be linked, Mercer admitted. You'll sense each other's emotions, physical states, and separation will cause discomfort. There may also be unpredictable effects. Serafina let out a dry laugh. The heir to House Teva, bound to a station mechanic. My father will have me exiled. For the record, Adrian muttered, you're not exactly my dream match either, princess. Her golden eyes flashed. How dare you? She cut off, gasping in pain, clutching her abdomen. Her vitals are dropping, Mercer announced. We need to begin the transfer. Now. Adrian looked at the princess, the arrogant, impossible woman who had just wrecked his quiet life. She met his gaze, and for a fleeting second, her royal mask slipped. Beneath it, he saw fear, and something else, vulnerability. Fine, Adrian said. His voice was steadier than he felt. What do we do first? Adrian sat cautiously on the edge of the medical bed. For now, just hold hands, Dr. Mercer instructed, her tone making it clear that more intimate steps would be required later. Serafina's eyes fluttered open as he reached for her. Let's get this over with, mechanic. You know, you could use my name, Adrian muttered, taking her hand. It's a... The moment their fingers touched, a shock surged through his body. Serafina gasped, her back arching slightly off the bed. Golden circuitry-like patterns flared to life on her twilight-colored skin, spreading outward from where they connected. Fascinating, Dr. Mercer murmured, watching the readings. The transfer is happening faster than expected. Your compatibility might be even stronger than we thought. Serafina's fingers tightened around Adrian's, her amber eyes wide, pupils dilated. This feeling... Are you okay? Adrian asked, resisting the sudden and very inappropriate urge to trace the glowing patterns on her skin. I feel She swallowed hard. I feel everything you're feeling. Your concern, your confusion, your... She cut herself off abruptly, her violet skin darkening with a deep flush. Adrian's brain betrayed him. He suddenly became very aware of how attractive she was, and then immediately realized she could sense that awareness. He scrambled to think about something else, maintenance schedules, engine blueprints, anything but the way her lips had parted slightly. Stop that! Her voice was sharp, but she didn't let go of his hand. If anything, her grip tightened. Stop what? Stop thinking about... She squirmed slightly. Just stop thinking altogether. Dr. Mercer cleared her throat. The emotional bleed-through is expected. It should stabilize as you adjust to the connection. There will be no adjusting to anything, Serafina declared, though the golden circuits pulsed brighter against her skin. This is temporary, a medical necessity. Nothing more. A commotion outside the medical bay interrupted whatever sarcastic response Adrian was about to make. Loud voices, heavy footsteps, the door slammed open. Your Highness! One of Serafina's guards burst in, armor gleaming. We have a situation. Prince Kyle has just arrived on the station. Serafina's fingers crushed Adrian's hand. Kale is here? Adrian had a very bad feeling about this. Who's Kale? He asked, though his stomach already knew the answer. Serafina didn't meet his eyes. My... fiancé. You're what now? The guard continued, ignoring Adrian's slack-jawed stare. He's demanding to see you immediately, Your Highness, and he's not pleased about the situation. As if to prove the point, a deep, furious voice roared from somewhere in the station. Where is the human who dares touch my betrothed? Adrian sighed. Oh, hell. Dr. Mercer was already activating portable medical equipment. We need to move. Now the transfer isn't complete. If you're separated too soon... Serafina tried to sit up, but collapsed with a sharp cry of pain. The golden circuits on her skin flared brighter. What's wrong? Adrian asked, instinctively moving closer. It hurts, she gasped. When you move away, it feels like I'm being torn apart. Dr. Mercer checked the readings. The bond is stabilizing faster than expected. You can't be separated by more than 10 meters, or it will cause severe pain to both of you. Somewhere in the station, another crash echoed. The guard winced. Prince Kyle has 4 arms. Each one is currently holding a plasma weapon. Adrian turned back to Serafina, still clutching his hand. Anything else I should know about your fiancé? He has a significant temper, she admitted, and he's somewhat possessive. Another explosion. Closer. Dr. Mercer made a decision. There's a maintenance access panel in the back of the medical bay. It leads to the station's service tunnels. Serafina looked horrified. The tunnels? You expect me to crawl through maintenance ducts like some common mechanic? Adrian finished. Because this common mechanic knows those tunnels better than anyone, and right now that might be the only thing keeping us alive. She glared at him, but through their connection he felt something else. Respect, maybe, or just resignation. Fine, she grumbled. But this is completely undignified. Adrian helped her up, trying to ignore how natural it felt to support her weight. Your Highness, he said, guiding her toward the access hatch. I think dignity left the airlock the moment you got poisoned and had to hold hands with a mechanic. Chief engineer, she corrected automatically, then looked startled that she'd remembered. Adrian smirked. Now you're getting it. The service tunnels of Novaris Station were a maze of dimly lit passages. For Adrian, they were familiar territory. For Serafina, this is barbaric, she muttered, pressing close to him as they ducked under a sparking conduit. This entire place smells like honest work, Adrian offered. Like you, she shot back, then immediately looked mortified. Adrian's pulse jumped, but before he could respond, a distant explosion cut through the tunnels. The whole section shuddered. "Your fiancé really knows how to make an entrance," Adrian muttered, pulling her down a side passage. "Is property destruction some kind of royal courtship ritual?" "Kale is traditional," she admitted. "He believes in protecting what's his." Adrian's jaw tightened. "And you're his?" Serafina stiffened. "I am my own." Then, softer. "But the marriage was arranged for political reasons. House Teva needs allies." Another explosion shook the tunnels. "Well," Adrian gritted out, "your political alliance is currently trying to kill us both. And from what Dr. Mercer said—" He met her gaze. "If I die, you die too." Serafina's hand found his in the dim light. "Then don't die, mechanic." Adrian led them deeper into the tunnels, navigating blind turns and hidden passages. Serafina's earlier complaints vanished, replaced by heavy breathing and pained whimpers. Finally, he stopped in a small maintenance hub. "We need to rest," he said, helping her onto a storage crate. "The poison's getting worse." "I'm fine," she insisted, even as she sagged against him. "You're not fine." He held up their joined hands. "I can feel it." Her golden circuits pulsed brighter. Adrian's breath caught. "We need another transfer." Serafina stared at him. "Here?" Her voice was almost breathless. He smirked. "Would you rather wait for a proper royal bedroom?" For the first time, Serafina laughed. It was rich, unrestrained. Adrian grinned. Oh, he was in trouble. Serafina hesitated, a ghost of a smile touching her lips. "Chief engineer?" Adrian smirked. "Finally got it right." He checked the security feed on his wrist computer. "No sign of your four-armed friend in this sector, but I've got at least 3 bounty hunter ships requesting emergency docking clearance." Serafina sighed. "Kale's work. He's always been excessive. 1,000,000 credits for my head seems a bit more than excessive. 2,000,000, actually." She shifted uncomfortably, the golden circuits on her skin flaring. "Adrian." The use of his first name made him look up sharply. Through their strengthening bond, he felt her discomfort. And something else, something heated and urgent that she was trying to suppress. "The poison?" he asked, already moving toward her. She nodded, her amber eyes darkening. "The intervals between necessary contact are getting shorter." She swallowed hard. "And more intense." Adrian sat beside her, trying to maintain some professional distance, even as his body gravitated toward hers. "Doctor," Mercer said this might happen. "The progression requires escalating levels of intimacy," Serafina admitted. Her hand found his, their fingers intertwining automatically. Both of them gasped at the contact. "I can feel everything you're feeling," she whispered. "Every thought, every desire." "Sorry about that," Adrian muttered, very aware of how her presence affected him. "Don't be." Her voice was barely audible. "Your desires are surprisingly aligned with my own." Before Adrian could process that insanely dangerous admission, his wrist computer chimed. An alert. He pulled his hand away, ignoring Serafina's soft sound of protest. "Someone's trying to access the station's central database." His fingers moved quickly over the interface. "They're using royal authentication codes." Serafina leaned over his shoulder to look, bringing those golden patterns tantalizingly close. "Those are House Teva codes, but they're not mine. Let me guess. Your father's?" She shook her head. These are from the Science Ministry, but why would they?" Her eyes widened. Adrian's fingers flew over the interface. "Checking the medical database, looking for anything on genetic compatibility." He froze. "Someone's been very interested in—" "Wait." His heart stopped. "This can't be right." Serafina scanned the screen. What is it? These markers. They're not just compatible with your species. His voice grew tight. They were engineered to be. The timestamp on the research caught his eye. This data is from 30 years ago. Serafina's voice was barely a whisper. That's before I was born. She tapped the screen, pulling up the full project log. Project Starfire, a multi-generational program to create viable human Tevani hybrids. Adrian scanned the data, his pulse hammering. They modified human embryos, tried to create compatible matches, hundreds of attempts, all failures. Except, Serafina's fingers trembled. Except, Subject L137. She expanded the file. Successfully modified in utero, carried to term by test subject. She stopped breathing. Emily Voss. The world tilted. His mother. They used my mother, Adrian whispered, as a test subject. More files flickered open, decades of surveillance. His entire life had been monitored, documented, prepared for this moment. Serafina's voice was soft, horrified. They weren't just hoping for compatibility. She met his gaze. They engineered you. For me. A perfect genetic match, a custom-made mate for the princess. Adrian laughed bitterly. No wonder your science minister was so confident her plan would work. Serafina's hand found his, golden circuits swirling between them. But it didn't work the way they expected, did it? Her voice was quiet, but certain. They wanted to control us, force a political union. Instead, she searched his eyes. Instead, we chose each other. Adrian swallowed hard. Despite their plans, not because of them. There's more. Serafina scrolled through the data, her hands shaking. You weren't the only one. Adrian's breath caught. There were others. Dozens of modified children scattered across the galaxy. Insurance, in case he failed, backups for their grand experiment. How many lives did they manipulate? Adrian whispered. How many families? He trailed off as another file caught his eye. A medical report, 25 years ago. Subject Emily Voss, terminated. Official cause of death, shuttle accident, reality fractured. Serafina caught him as his knees buckled. She felt his grief, his rage. She tried to save me. Adrian's voice broke. She tried to stop them, and they will pay for it. Serafina's voice was steel. All of them. Adrian looked at her and saw her clearly for the first time. Not just a princess, not just a bonded partner, but a warrior. You'd go against your own government? He asked. She gripped his hand, the golden circuits between them pulsing in unison. My people, she whispered, touching the glowing patterns that marked them both, are the ones who choose justice over power, who fight for love over control. Her amber eyes blazed. You are my people now. Adrian pulled her close. Their patterns merged, just as they had so many times before. But now, he understood why it felt so right. They had been designed for each other. But their choice to embrace that connection had turned it into something their creators never predicted. We need to find the others, Adrian said. Warn them. Help them. Serafina's grip tightened. We will, her expression hardened. After we expose everything to the High Council, after we tear down the system that thought they could engineer love. That's going to cause chaos, diplomatic incidents, maybe even war. Serafina's smile was fierce. Good. She kissed him, strong, certain. Chaos is how new worlds are born. Serafina's golden eyes blazed. But how do we get there? Kale has the station surrounded. Adrian's wrist computer chimed. He checked the incoming message, then laughed. Remember that maintenance drone I fixed? Right before you crashed into my life? The one that kept beeping at us? Turns out it's been following us this whole time. Adrian's grin widened. And it just informed me that your royal shuttle is still in my workshop's repair bay, fully functional, thanks to its help. Serafina pressed closer to him, need and affection pulsing through their bond. I knew there was a reason I chose your workshop. You mean besides my irresistible charm? Don't push it, mechanic. But her smile betrayed her. They moved quickly through the maintenance tunnels, dodging patrols and fighting the increasing urge to stop, because Serafina's condition was worsening. The golden patterns on her skin were now spreading to Adrian, wherever they touched, creating matching designs that glowed with shared energy. As they reached the workshop's hidden entrance, the station shuddered violently. Through the viewport, they saw Kale's massive warship attaching itself to Novaris Station's hull like a mechanical parasite. He's cutting his way in, Adrian muttered, rapidly prepping the shuttle for launch. Subtle as always. Serafina's voice was strained. We have maybe an hour before the poison reaches terminal levels. If we're going to do this... Adrian turned to her, all pretense of distance gone. Then let's give the galaxy something worth watching. Escape and revelation. The royal shuttle burst from Novaris Station's repair bay in a flash of violet energy, narrowly avoiding Kale's warship. Inside the cockpit, Adrian could feel Serafina trembling against him, her breath coming in short, desperate gasps. The council station is 6 hours away, she whispered, her golden patterns pulsing weakly. But I have less than an hour. I know. Adrian pulled her closer, feeling the heat of her fever through their bond. We need somewhere private, somewhere safe. There is no safe place, she murmured, not with Kale hunting us, not with the minister's agents everywhere. Behind them, pursuit ships launched from Kale's warship. The comm system crackled with rage. Return my betrothed or face annihilation, Adrian sighed. He really doesn't understand what's happening, does he? This isn't about politics anymore, Serafina murmured, placing her hand over his on the controls. Where their skin touched, the golden patterns flared brilliantly, then faded. A warning sign. Adrian, I know. He studied the ship's navigation system. There's a private docking terminal on the far side of the council station, used for diplomatic emergencies. We'll never make it past security. We don't have to. Adrian smirked. We just have to make enough noise that everyone's looking the wrong way. He activated the ship's emergency beacon, broadcasting their location to every vessel in range. Within moments, new ships appeared, their cameras trained on the royal shuttle. You're making us a target, Serafina observed. But you approve, don't you? He teased. Through their bond, he felt her amusement. I'm making us a distraction. As pursuit ships closed in, Adrian dove the shuttle toward the council station's main docking bay. Then, at the last moment, he cut power to all systems except life support and maneuvering thrusters, letting their momentum carry them past the ceremonial entrance and straight toward the private terminal. Serafina gasped, clutching his arm as another wave of poison-induced pain hit her. The golden patterns on her skin were fading rapidly now. Adrian... He caught her as she stumbled, and the contact sent electricity through them both. There was no more time for clever plans or political maneuvering. They both knew what needed to happen. Here, she whispered, her golden eyes dark with need and uncertainty. Here, Adrian confirmed, sealing the shuttle hatches and engaging privacy screens. Unless you'd prefer to wait for a proper royal chamber? She smirked. Mechanic, she said, pulling him closer. Shut up and save my life. The golden patterns blazed between them as their bodies finally came together, burning away politics, prejudice, and everything except this moment. This connection, this choice, that was both necessity and destiny. A galactic reckoning. An hour later, the private docking terminal erupted in chaos. Security forces breached the outer doors, weapons raised, only to freeze at the sight before them. Adrian and Seraphina emerged, transformed. The golden patterns that had once marked only her skin now covered them both, pulsing with shared energy. Where their hands touched, the patterns merged and flowed, like liquid starlight. "Your Highness." One of the guards hesitated. Seraphina stood tall, all traces of weakness gone. "Take us to the council chamber." "But Prince Kale's orders—" "Not a request," Adrian cut in, his voice carrying the same royal authority as hers. Through their bond, he felt her amusement at his newfound confidence. News drones swarmed around them, broadcasting their transformation to the watching galaxy. "The ratings must be incredible," Adrian muttered. "Worried about being a galactic scandal?" Seraphina teased. "Worried about your reputation." She stopped, turning to face him. Through their bond, he felt her absolute certainty. "My reputation," she said softly, "is about to change a lot of things in this galaxy." She squeezed his hand. "Starting right now."